study,
and play come together on a Windows 11 PC.
And for a limited time, college students get
The best of both worlds.
Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
Zootopia 2 has come home to Disney+.
Let's go!
Get ready for a new case.
We're gonna crack this case and prove we're the greatest partners of all time!
New friends.
You are...
Gary the Snake.
And your last name?
The Snake.
Dream team.
New habitats.
Zootopia has a secret reptile population.
You can watch the record-breaking phenomenon at home.
You're clearly working it.
Zootopia 2, now available on Disney+, rated PG.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nerding Out on Neurodiversity, the podcast for all things neurodivergence. I'm Dr. Matt Zakreski, clinical psychologist and professional speaker, and I'm happy to be your host through the wild trails of the neurodivergent world.
And I'm Jake Noonan, educational coach and humanities teacher, your co-host and producer, and I'm thrilled to help share the stories and the experiences of wonderful people in the world of neurodiversity.
We're really excited for today's guest, which we are going to say a lot because we're always really excited about every guest we get. So let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Nerding Out on Neurodiversity. I'm your host, Dr. Matt Zakreski, clinical psychologist, professional speaker, published author, wearer of many hats, including co-hosting this illustrious podcast with the Kurt Warner to my Albert Pujols, Mr. Jake Noonan. Say hi, Jake.
Hey, everybody. Great as always to be here. Dr. Matt, I am so off with that one. I do not pick up on that reference. I'm sorry.
I know it.
For what it's worth, I didn't think you'd get that one, right?
I figured.
Two sports, not just one, but two sports. But Emily, tell us, what do those two people have in common?
Well, Albert Pujols and Kurt Warner both were athletes that we loved and revered here in the St. Louis area. But, you know, we don't really talk about Kurt Warner anymore because the Rams left us, and it's very sad. And we have a lot of, feelings about that. I don't know that this is the podcast to talk about that specifically, but we do love Albert. That's for sure. Even though, he came back for his last season here, it was lovely.
I totally still get those references now. I don't. I'm not a big sports person.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah.
It's fine. These intros are, it's like a nice, like, canary in the coal mine to understand what things Jake understands and what things Jake doesn't.
Oh, there are plenty of things you could say that would just go straight over my head, but I did get that one.
I try very hard to the extent to which an ADHDer can plan anything.
I'm pretty impressed. I'm like, where are we going with this? Okay.
Because it started organically, and then, like, as we kept doing it, because, listen, you host one of the best podcasts in the neurodiversity world. So, the podcast evolves as you evolve. And
oh, please. Yeah, don't go back and listen to the first episodes.
I always describe it as if someone were to find and read the poetry you wrote when you were 12 aloud.
Oh.
And it's just like, oh, good. No, oh, God. In our first episode, I sound like a local news anchor. I'm like, hello, guest. Please tell us what you do. I'm like, God, oh, it's so bad. And how many episodes are you up to now, Emily?
We're going to hit 300 in the new year. So I'm sure, I don't know when you guys have this one slated to go out, but we're like right at like 297 or something right now. So the first episode of 2026 will be episode 300. Wow. So looking forward to that. Yeah.
Congratulations ahead of time.
Yes. Yep. It's been a long journey. It's been great. It's hard to believe that it's been now 2026. How do numbers work? 8th year, 9th year? We started in 2018. It's like the 19th century is actually like the 1800s. I've got to think about that for a second, but we started in January of 2018. So do the math.
And it was one of the first times I ever got to be on a podcast. and like I listened to myself and I took notes because I always try and take notes when I do presentations because I figure like that's the best way to get better. And I remember looking at my notes for that and realized I had just stopped listening halfway through because I was so captivated by the conversation they were having. And I was just like, oh, that must mean it's a good episode because I stopped doing my job and just listened.
Yeah, right. No, that was a great episode. It was fun.
So the vast majority of our audience is going to know who you are, but for posterity, tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Emily Kircher-Morris. I'm the host of the Neurodiversity podcast. I am a licensed professional counselor, but I came to being a mental health professional through the school. So I started out as a teacher in gen ed and both gifted ed classrooms, and then I worked for a while as a school counselor. So that has led me to, starting the podcast. I've written several books and a couple on education specifically, a couple for parents. Most recent one is Neurodiversity Affirming Schools, Transforming Practices so all students feel accepted and supported. I'm the parent to 3 neurodivergent, twice exceptional kids. I am twice exceptional and was one of the few people who was given both a gifted and an ADHD diagnosis, like at the time back in the early 90s. So that was interesting, but lots of those other little quirks there. And so I think that's most of the things. I probably forgot something. I don't know. But yeah, I do a lot of speaking. I do a lot of trainings, that sort of stuff, which is kind of how I think you and I originally met.
Yeah. At the Davidson Institute.
That's right.
Yeah, beautiful Reno.
Mm-hmm. In July.
Oh, God, it's a chef's kiss. Still my favorite hotel, though.
Yeah.
All of the hotels I stay in, I love the Whitney Peak Hotel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they remember me. They're like, Dr. Zakreski, your room is ready. I'm like, I'm a real adult.
That's fun.
Yeah, I mean, so like, obviously we have plenty in common, both as speakers and as podcast hosts and as published authors and as 2E humans with the ADHD world. I just want to say that you and Amanda wrote the book I wish I could have written. Like, Neurodiversity Affirming Schools is spectacular. And I'm not just saying that because you're on our podcast, because you know me, I lack any subtlety or artifice. But it's one of those books. I read that like 95% happy and 5% a little jealous. Like, God damn it, I wish I wrote this book. Because, I called my book the playbook, but you actually wrote the playbook. Like, it's so soup to nuts. So if you don't mind, like, telling us, like, what was that process like? You, Amanda, like, you put your heads together, and how does that book come out of there?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I will just say, first of all, I am really proud of this book. And Amanda, who has also written several books. So Amanda Morin is my co-author. And we both will say that this was the hardest book we've ever written, primarily because it really was reshaping and redefining some of the practices that we have in schools. Even more, for sure, my first book, Teaching Twice Exceptional Learners, that was hard because I was doing it on my own. It was my first book. However, there was still some established, like there was a little bit more foundational stuff to build on. And so through the work, it was through the podcast, and we were just always talking about neurodiversity affirming practices in schools and in the clinical world and in homes. And I had this idea, like, people don't really know, like, what does it mean when we say a neurodiversity affirming school? What does that actually look like? I felt like we really needed something that would lay the groundwork from a systemic perspective on how to shift those conversations and bring people into that world. So we created, I actually, it was funny because Amanda and I both travel a lot for stuff. And I called her one day, I was in an airport. It was the only time we could connect. And I was like, I have this idea. I know you're busy. What do you think? And she was on board. And the nice thing about working with Amanda specifically, so I come kind of from the gifted ed mental health space. She comes from a special education and early childhood space, but has done a lot of work with understood.org. And so she has a wide range of experiences. So we just kind of came at it from different angles and were able to build on that. She is also twice exceptional. She's gifted and autistic. I suspect she has a little ADHD in there too, but it all kind of filters through. We won't, but it's so, but we sat down and we brainstormed and we just kind of were like, we want to write this book and what are the things that we really want to include that, again, shift the conversation to the practices recognizing that neurodiversity affirming practices aren't just good for neurodivergent people, they're good for all people. And this is something that was a shift also from, again, moving away from just certain populations. It was more broad. So we're talking about autism, we're talking about ADHD, we're talking about learning disabilities, we're talking about giftedness, we're talking about intellectual disability, like all of those different things. But how do we move away from some of the practices that are so baked into our schools that really are unhelpful for neurodivergent learners and kind of counterproductive? So that was kind of how it started. And like I said, it's done great. It's been out almost a year now, which is hard to believe, but it's still doing really well. People are really responding to it, which is great.
And we talk about universal design all the time on the show, and it's and you made it so tangible, right? It's like every time, and it's fun. It's one of your gifts as a speaker as well. It's like you sort of set something up, and like people in the audience are like, well, here's what the problem with that is going to be. And you're probably thinking this is the problem with that. However, and then bam, and it was just like, oh shit, she's like 2 steps ahead. You're playing chess when we're all playing checkers.
I don't know about that. It is interesting that you say that, though, because oftentimes, even with my clients, one of the things that I will share is people will say, like, I remember when I first started as a clinician and people would come into the office and I would feel the pressure. I think this comes from an educational mindset a little bit. Like, I had to give them a solution. I had to give them an answer. I had to give them a strategy. I had to give them a tool so that when they walked out of that first session, they already felt like they were, on the road to solving all of the problems. That just isn't always the way that it works, because sometimes it just takes a while to get to know somebody, to develop those strategies, figure out what's going to work. However, what I've often told my clients, and this is kind of the same thing that I feel like applies when I'm working with educators, is I may not have all the answers. I do have a lot of ideas, partially because I've just been doing this for so long and really in this world, but I'm also just really good at brainstorming. And I feel like that was the other thing I feel that we were able to do with the book a little bit, was like ask the questions, get people thinking about the things that make them reframe how to look at situations. Is this a behavior problem, or is it this, or is it this, or is it this, or is it this? And then approach it from a way that, like, we're going to collaboratively try to figure out what's going on and find some solutions.
So much of this is hard-won advice, right? I mean, I don't know about your counseling program, but I know my psychology program, they weren't like, oh, here's how you work with neurodivergent kids. And like, I remember in early sessions with gifted kids, be like, the CBT isn't working. The CBT is failing because these kids are too smart for that. And they would check out. So I'm like, listen, no, I'm going to throw the manual away. I'm going to be real with you. And, you can keep the fundamental structures. You just have to package it in a way that absolutely applies to people, which is, I think, honestly analogous to what you guys are talking about in neurodiversity affirming schools, because it isn't throw phonics out the window. It's integrate it, layer it, make it accessible, make it tangible, make it real. And then the kids will do it, and they'll move through it quickly so you can get on to the next thing. How many teachers spend hours going like head-to-head battle royale with these kids over writing 3 sentences on Thomas Jefferson that the teacher doesn't want them to do, the kid doesn't want them to do it, but they have to do it. So it's like, hey, here's how we step outside of that power dynamic and stop the problems before they start.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of what is often missing there is, especially for neurodivergent people, the explanation of the processes. Like, it's so often education or clinical practice, whatever it is, parent, like, I don't know, anything. It comes across as something like you're educating children like you're doing it to them. You're counseling them like you're doing it to them. And especially for neurodivergent kids, like, that just doesn't work that way because they just process information differently. So like an example of this that it made me think about when you're talking about the CBT thing. I remember when I first started, I was still working in the schools. I was working as a school counselor, and I was starting to do work in my practice and build that clientele. And I was talking with one of the educational support counselors who had been there. And so she was an LPC. And so she would work with a lot of clients, and she was talking about this CBT activity that she would do with younger kids, like elementary school age. And it was called flipping the pancake. And basically it was kind of this artsy activity. And they would put like one thought on one side of the pancake and kind of decorate it or whatever. And then they would flip the pancake with the reframed thought or whatever. And I was like, like that would never work with the kids I'm working with. Like, because why am I flipping a pancake and what does a pancake have to do with it? And I explained to her, I was like, so what I'll do with kids is I'll literally, if that's what we're trying to focus on, CBT, love it or leave it, like take what works and leave the rest. But I'll get out a dry erase board and I draw the little triangle and I've got, thoughts up here and feelings down here and behaviors down here. And we talk about how each one of those influences the other, and you can pull one this way or pull one this way, and it kind of shifts those others. And we really walk through that. And I explain the process to get that buy-in from them. And she goes, and they understand that? And I'm like, yeah, like they do. And that's not just gifted kids though either. Like there's nothing about that is so advanced, but especially for neurodivergent kids who need things explained in a way that like makes it relevant to them. Yeah, that's just one of those things that I feel like we sometimes miss and forget about. And so I just am like, if we could just be really clear about this, it would be so much helpful, so much better for everybody.
And, and just that question from your colleague, like we're pushing back so much on, it's not even misinformation, though that certainly exists. It's really a lack of information, right? It's like,
yes,
I didn't know these kids could do this, or vice versa, could not do this.
Right.
Just this morning, I got a call from a gym teacher at a school one of my kids go to. He's like, tell me again why this kid can't catch a ball. And I was like, well, asynchronous development, fine motor skills, eye tracking, ADHD. He's like, okay. He's like, because I'm telling you, he's the smartest kid I've ever met. But if I see one more kickball hit him in the face, I'm going to scream. And I'm like, yeah. Inattentive type ADHD kid in a middle school gym class is just, if we got to laugh, otherwise it would be terrible.
I know.
And he texted me, he's like, yeah, gym class did not go well today. I'm like, no, I already got an email about it, buddy. He's like, good times.
Yeah, no, well, PE is like the bane of many kids' existence, so.
Oh, man. So tell me then, oh gosh, right. So Jake and I met when we worked at the Grayson School. And we always used to joke that our kids like to do inverse school. The kids I'd be like, okay, Joey, if you don't get your shit together, you can't go to science. They'd be like, dang, okay. Versus like neurotypical kids in public school, it's like, hey, if you don't get your shit together, you can't go to art or recess. And the kids be like, I will get my shit together, right? Like our kids were like, specials in gym were like, in recess, God. They were like, no, we don't wanna. Can I do extra math? I'm like, no, you have to go play outside with your friends.
Yeah.
So mean.
Yeah, no, it is interesting how, well, I mean, I think that's part of it, right? Like recognizing what kids' interests are, how to get them engaged, how to get them, and recognizing that it doesn't always look the same, right? We have to kind of adapt it for each individual kiddo. And I feel like, yeah, sometimes we miss that. Sometimes we just do things the way they've always been done because we don't have the bandwidth or the knowledge or the information in order to shift it up. I feel like that's changing gradually. I'm not a super patient person, so.
None of us are.
Well, listen, I don't know if I told you this, Matt, whenever I saw you at one of the last conferences. I might have. I told a couple of people, but so for my own youngest son who's in 5th grade, did I tell you about going and meeting with his teacher? Okay, here's the story. So he's in 5th grade. We have a pattern. We get to meet with the classroom teacher within the first 2 to 3 weeks of school every year. It's just never a smooth transition. He's a perfectionist. He does not like to take risks. He doesn't know if he really trusts that teacher. So he just sits back and he's really kind of like a little defiant in his own special way. So this year as a 5th grader, he has now decided that he likes to read books with plots, meaning like chapter books, not graphic novels. We've moved beyond graphic novels now. And so he would sit in class and they would give an assignment and he would sit there and go, yeah, I'm just going to read my book with a plot. I'm going to choose to do this instead. Anyway, so we got the email. So we're kind of talking to him about it, blah, 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 whatever. Then the next email I got was an email from the teacher saying, I created this behavior chart for Trevor. Ooh, the magic words. And I just felt my heart start to race. And I was like, okay, continue. And I kept reading, and like she attached it, and it was like it was literally everything that I feel like is wrong with the educational system in general, especially for neurodivergent kids. I opened up this attachment, and it's this PDF with like all of the time of the days, scheduled out with like little smiley faces, smiley face, meh face, sad face. And the teacher's going to go around several times a day and mark it off. And she had already implemented it with him. And she's like, and he's very excited about it. I'm like, I'm sure he is today for the new thing, for being, whatever. And I was like, I don't think this is the most effective way to approach this. I'd like to have a meeting so we can talk about this and blah, 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 whatever. So this is the first time ever that I've ever had to do this. I don't know that I had to do it. It's the first time ever that I was willing to do this, where I brought a copy of one of my books and presented it to the teacher at the meeting. And I was like,
you're like the guy from What About Bob? Like, what? Which one of these books?
And I was like, and the school counselor was in there, who I know very well. And the teacher is lovely. She is doing what she can and what she knows as far as how to support kids. No one has ever given her an alternative. So I don't want it to sound like I'm throwing her under the bus, but I have a very visceral reaction to behavior charts, simply because I was a kid who had to carry around a behavior chart when I was in school, and I hated it. It was mortifying. It was humiliating, and it didn't teach me anything other than how to forge my teacher's signatures. That was what I learned from that process. Anyway, so, as I was like, if you want to track data, if you want to gather information, there is a way to do that in a way that is affirming and honors autonomy and builds self-regulation. But this is not it. And you're not actually teaching him anything, because you haven't actually explicitly said, what does it look like when I earn a smiley face, a meh face, or a sad face? And you're reinforcing a power hierarchy, which again, it might work now while he's in your good graces, but the minute, I'm telling you, my kid can hold a grudge. I don't know where he gets it, because I'm a pretty whatever. Right. But if he gets mad, he is not going to let that go easily. And I don't know. It's just like it was interesting though, because I was like, I'm sorry, I feel like a real jerk bringing this in. I didn't use the word jerk, I used a different word, but again, I know these folks decently well. I'm like, but here's the chapter. Go ahead and use this. And it'll kind of show you how you can reframe this to actually build skills without necessarily just making it a disciplinary issue.
It's funny. It's like, you can't therapize your own kid for very good reasons.
Or your spouse, for that matter. Just saying.
Cut to Dave nodding vigorously.
But continue. Yes, I digress. Go ahead.
Try being married to a mental health professional. Julia's like, don't try that shit with me. I'm like,
I know what you're doing.
It's how I see the world. So Jake's wife's name is Jack. And I was kicking around an idea with her on Friday. And she was anxious about it. And I was like, Jack, you don't have to be anxious. She's like, don't do therapy, Dr. Matt, on me. I'm like, fine, sorry. We can't help it. But you have to be able to advocate for your kid, and I think teachers are so used to being advocated against from a position of emotion rather than knowledge. Mm-hmm. Jake and I once sat in a parent-teacher conference against this dad who, was richer than God, who at the point was like, listen, he was like, I don't know a lot about psychology and I don't know a lot about education, but I don't like what you're doing with my kid. I'm like, acknowledge you don't know shit about what we're doing. We know more about this than you, sir. I understand it doesn't look like what you looked at XYZ Preparatory Academy for the, Young Republicans of America.
Our favorites.
Yeah, we love that for you. But yeah, I think as experts, we can't be afraid to bring that knowledge in, but from a place that draws people in, doesn't call them out.
Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I feel like that's part of it. Like, I don't know, part of human nature is not wanting to be wrong. And so if you are immediately telling somebody that they are wrong, they're going to shut down. But if you can approach those conversations with some humility and some collaborative approaches, you're more likely to get that buy-in. Like, that's just the quickest way to get anybody to shut down. And, you know, I feel like that's always just one of those things that we don't always, in the moment, if we're unable to regulate our own emotions, we're much more likely to approach it that way. I'm right, you're wrong, do it my way.
Yep.
And so whether you're talking about with collaborating with another educator who's supporting your kid, or approaching it with your own child, like as a parent, or whatever it might be, it's just like, it's a really ineffective way to go about it. And I think that that's probably something I've learned like kind of the hard way, because, you know, I mostly know how things should be done. And I just really believe that people should do it the way I suggest it or tell them or want it done. And, you know, when I was in school, it was like, you know how they give the grades on like the social and emotional, whatever. It was like, use his time wisely. That was always a check mark. Never got that. Works well with others. Nope. Just wants to work by herself. I'm like, I will say though, I went through a counseling program. It was great. Like it taught me all things about social communication. It was lovely. I learned all sorts of stuff by the time I was 30 finally. So, you know.
Yeah. Better late than never, right?
Better late than never. Better late than never. It means something more when you've had to have that progression. It didn't come as naturally.
Oh my gosh. So listeners, Emily and I both had the good fortune of knowing the great Jim Delisle, who unfortunately passed away recently. And we put together and in true gifted community fashion, they called me about this the Tuesday before the national conference. They're like, can we make this happen? I was like, I don't know. I'm going to be in Mississippi all week. I don't know how helpful it came together. It was beautiful. Emily spoke beautifully. Colin got to speak. Brian, I mean, all the heavy hitters showed up, including Ed Amond, Ray, and Emily. But it's funny. Like I had put this book that I was working on, this graphic novel about gifted kids, on the shelf as I was getting my other book out. And knowing Jim was in poor health, I just felt bad about it. But, you know, now having that event, I really sort of relit that fire. So I've been working on it again. I'm meeting with our publisher tomorrow to see if we can take the next steps on that. Fingers crossed for me. But the reason I brought this up is there's a panel in this graphic novel where the main character is like, you know what, you guys are too frustrating. I'll just do this whole book report myself. And the other kids are like, great. And I showed that image to Jim, and he's like, no one has ever distilled the experience of being a gifted kid in public school better than this one 6x6 cartoon panel. Because it's like exasperation on the main character's face. The other two kids are like giving each other a high five, like, we did it, you know? Like, oh God.
But I mean, you know, looking at it from that gifted perspective, like, what other option do you have? I mean, it's like, yeah, my mom has all sorts of stories, right? And yeah, it's like, I have a vision. I have an idea for how I want to do this. And I'm going to need you to get on board or get out of the way. Like, those are really the only two choices. And so, yeah, you know, there's actually this one meme, actually, sometimes I put it in a presentation. You've probably seen it somewhere along the lines, but I don't know exactly what it says, but it's like, I want my group members to be the pallbearers at my funeral so they can let me down one more time, like, or whatever it is. And yeah, that's a real thing. It's hard. And it's like, but also then I come at it and I'm like, okay, so from a perspective of somebody who is supporting that person, like, how do you approach that to help them have better social communication, have better opportunities to collaborate and negotiate? Or when can they just do it on their own and they don't even have to mess with the group stuff? Like, there's a both and there with those.
Right. And that kind of flexible thinking is, everyone comes to us looking for a capital S solution. And I think that you and I, because we're not hucksters, we're like, listen, there's no capital S solution. It is a series of better practices that you're going to try your best to do and get your ass kicked by, because that's just, listen, if it was easy, anybody would teach gifted kids, right? Or therapize them, or right? So it's funny, Emily, a while ago you mentioned that you're not great at being patient, and nor am I, which is why you and I get along so fast and talk about it. But Jake has been so patient. He's been his I have a question face for like 20 minutes as we've like rabbit trailed off our rabbit trail. So Jake, go ahead, buddy. You were very good. Gold star behavior chart for you.
Oh, now I don't want to do it because you gave me a behavior chart. No.
Yeah, right. Forget it.
Patience is a virtue and a vice for me, absolutely. But no, so Some of my like questions for you stem around like the idea of teaching and administration and like being a teacher in the classrooms, and knowing that I've had a lot of administrators who don't really understand giftedness, neurodiversity, twice exceptionality, like all of those things. And I've been around teachers as well who don't understand it. And it's no fault on theirs. It's like, I mean, my training was, I had, I think 2 weeks in one class on what giftedness was, and that was it. So I don't fault them for it whatsoever. But what guidance would you have for the teachers that are struggling, and then also to the administrators who see the teachers struggling but might not know what to do or how to help? And sometimes that ends up coming onto it where it's like, oh, here's a Band-Aid solution that we just kind of think works for everybody, but it doesn't.
It depends on what they're struggling with, obviously. I mean, so I think that kind of varies a little bit, but generally, I think probably the foundational piece of all of it is to approach each situation, each child, with a sense of curiosity. Meaning, don't automatically assume that you know why a student is doing something. Like we look at functional behavior assessments or evaluations or whatever, and people will be like, oh, well, they're doing this in order to escape, or they're doing this in order to gain attention, or they're doing this in order. It's like, how do you know that? I mean, there's so much more to what you see on the surface, and it's just interesting. What this reminds me of, again, rabbit hole, but so when I was in my program for counseling and I was doing my first practicum, it wasn't the internship yet, I don't remember what it was, but I had a clinician, like I had somebody who was actually like a doctoral student who was then supervising me as a master's level student, and she described herself, and I'll never remember because at the time I was like, what does that even mean? She described herself as a nouveau radical behaviorist.
Oh.
And I'm like, again, just the language itself is so off-putting. But also, whatever that exactly means, I feel like I'm the opposite, right? And that's, I think, the problem is that in schools, we are trying to find the shortcuts in order to find solutions for kids. And there are some things that work in general for most kids. The problem is that the strategies that we put in place for kids who need something different are often the things that work with the neuromajority, not that kid. So like the behavior chart thing, and this is the one thing I always say, it's like, give a behavior chart if you want. I go, but you have to realize like it's going to work for the kids who don't need it. The kids who quote unquote need it, it won't work for.
Right.
You have to do something different. And so what that really means though is you have to question. Like you might gain short-term compliance from something, but you're not actually solving any problems. And so back to your question. So the first part that I would say is that curiosity. The second part of it is to think really specifically about how we can be really explicit about what our expectations are and what we need and how kids can provide those things. I feel like, especially if we're talking about gifted and 2E kids, or even just kids who are not officially gifted, but are maybe neurodivergent, but have average to above average intelligence. Many of them are very verbal. They can explain a lot of things. They can tell you a minute by minute history of the Titanic from the time it set sail, however, these things that are quote unquote common sense, and we're like, well, they're so book smart, but they don't have any common sense. It's like, okay, well then teach them the common sense. Like, and I don't know how that sometimes gets missed, but somehow we feel like we have to discipline the common sense. It's like, no, just coach them on it. Like, just help them know what they have to do. And so those would kind of be the two starting points that I feel like are just foundational for this type of work.
Yeah, and from that, like, it also sounds like there's, I mean, not just sounds like, there is a lot of like underlaying things and like concerns where it's like a kid might come in and they might be like, acting out, quote unquote, because maybe they didn't get enough sleep because they were up all night helping their little sibling because their parents were both at work like overnight. And I think we're in a position more recently than ever where those aspects are coming into every single classroom, and it's like unavoidable. It used to be like when I was in school, early 1990s, like kids would come in, like there'd be some issues, there'd be some things kids would talk about, but it wasn't like everyone or a ton of them, because like a handful of kids were like, oh, my dad's at work, my mom stays at home. Or my mom's at work, my dad stays at home. And then now it's both of my parents are working multiple jobs. And then it's, I have to be the one at age 9 to step up and do more around the house. So it's like more of the ownership, more of the responsibilities. And just recognizing that that's a big factor for all of these kids as well.
You know, you're talking about some situations that are often unavoidable and really intense for kids. One of the things that I am thinking about a lot lately, as my own kids are, they're 17, 15, and 10, as a parent who struggles with executive functioning, with kids who struggle with executive functioning. Like, I'm driving my youngest to school today, and I was like, I probably should have emptied his backpack and taken those papers out from last week and looked at those, right? Like, it doesn't even have to be that intense to have a major impact, I guess is kind of what I'm saying. Yeah. And you wouldn't necessarily know it on the surface until you have that mentality of curiosity to kind of figure it out, and giving everybody a little bit of grace. It's so easy to say, well, why didn't this parent do this? Or why didn't that parent do that? Or why is this kid acting this way? They just need to do X, Y, and Z. It's like, well, if it was that easy, they would do it.
Right.
And so how do we either accommodate or meet them where they are, or build those strategies or skills? You know, I feel like but you don't know what you don't know. And the only way to figure that out is through looking at it a little bit more deeply.
As Dr. Matt says all the time, be curious, not furious.
Yeah.
Stealing it from you again.
Love a good rhyme. Yeah, absolutely. That's great.
Everyone who knows me knows I speak in bumper stickers.
There's a keynote in there somewhere.
Right? Merch. We all be like more Colin and sell some merch.
Hey, you know. Have you had Colin on yet?
Yeah, I mean, you know what's like scheduling with Colin. He'll just text me one morning like, I'm free, and then we'll have to scramble and be there. I mean, yeah, I mean, glad he's the nicest guy in the world. And Colin, if you ever listen to this, you know that's how I feel about you. You also know that one day he'll just be here, and we'll be like, all right, good, Colin's here. That's, you know.
Yeah.
Actually, you know, it's funny. This is such a nerdy podcast moment, but you and I both had celebrities, like capital C celebrities, on our shows this year. You had Lake Bell.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been a fan of Lake Bell forever. I thought she did a great job in the What If series on Disney Plus for Marvel Animated. Where did that conversation come from? Because like, I genuinely, that was one of the most interesting episodes I think you guys have ever done.
Yeah. Well, she had a book that came out on neurodiversity that I'm not going to remember the title of. What is neurodiversity? I mean, it's a children's book. It's a picture book. It's about like the concept of neurodiversity. I think it's called What is Neurodiversity? Are you Googling it?
I'm Googling
on the
it.
side. Yeah. Okay. And so realistically, her agent had reached out to us, and I was like, well, yeah, sure. We would love to have her.
Yeah, right.
Actually, I'm probably the person who I'm very excited about. This is an interview we're doing tomorrow, who I feel like is probably a name even more familiar. Everybody who looks up Lake Bell, you will know her. Like, you will know her image, you will know who she is. But it might not be a name that you recognize if you don't follow a lot of that, you know, film and movie, you know, and TV stuff. But tomorrow, I'm interviewing Ross Green, and so yeah. And so, you know, I do love the opportunity to just kind of send messages to folks and say, hey, can I talk to you for 30 minutes and kind of get your perspective on some things? It's a little bit different. You know, talking to Lake Bell and interviewing her for the podcast is a little bit different because people know her in one role, but they don't really know her in this role as parent of a neurodivergent child. With Ross Green, though, however, I'm sitting there going, I got to ask him something that people haven't asked him before. Like, what am I going to say that's going to make this conversation different and add to the conversation and maybe cause him to think a little bit more deeply about some things that I'm sure he probably thinks about, but maybe doesn't always have the opportunity to articulate. Yeah, it's cool though to have those opportunities to have those conversations with, you know, people who are making a difference and bringing in the conversation, you know, different aspects of all of it.
Well, I mean, that was our experience with Kircher-Morris, right? Like, she's like, people still recognize you're the cold case lady, and I'm like, you know, like, yes, I was like, of course, like, deep cut. You're also Tom Cruise's wife in Minority Report, and she was like, boy, can I tell you some stories about that filming process?
Ooh, yes.
But she's like low key good in that. She's like, you know, I am putting on this different hat. She's like, but you know, I don't want to be a celebrity who's just parroting something, right? She's like,
Right.
I live this. This is my life. This is my world. She's like, I have that authenticity experience, but people see capital C celebrity. They're like, oh, whatever, right? You don't actually know this. You don't actually live this. Lake Bell's book, all about brains, by the way.
All about brains. I was way off.
Right. I'll go ahead and order that.
Yeah. I can imagine it. It has a red cover.
It does.
Has pictures of little kids. Like I don't know that I realized this actually until recently, but I have such a visual memory. Like I remember things in pictures specifically. And so it's part of the reason why, well, let me rephrase that. I'm also very good at remembering things in words, but I'm not always good at tying the two things together. Does that make sense? Like, so I can remember a name that I've seen written, and but again, probably because I'm actually seeing it written, and I can remember the picture of something, or like somebody's face, but then trying to I'm terrible at that.
What if it was like a picture of somebody with their name underneath of it?
Well, but I think that's actually part of the thing is I think I know so many people from online and like social media. And so then then I associate that picture with their name, but then when they're separate, like when I see them separately or I see their name separately, I can't put the context together. I don't know, but yeah, it's interesting. I'm like, I mean, I read the book. I remember exactly the pictures and I remember the story, storyline. I can't remember the title. Has a red cover.
Right. Like I love that that's how your brain works, and which is probably why you and I got so lost at the Gaylord. Because everyone in those hallways looked the same. We were like, nope. We turn around, we walk away, we're coming. Nope. I mean,
I'm like, I don't think this is the right way. Like, I think we're back where we started. I don't know. The signs were not helpful. Part of it was like the signs were there and they're like, oh, this is the Country Hills elevator. And this is I'm like, that means nothing to me.
Oh my God. I mean, we were in a hotel like that at the Washington Gifted Conference this year.
Oh yeah.
Like 6 towers, and each one had its own elevator and you couldn't connect to any of them. And Julia tried to go explore Seattle. She's like, I couldn't leave the hotel. Every time I tried to go somewhere, it was like, do you mean to go into Westport Tower? She's like, no, I want to go out. Where is
I'm going to leave. That's funny. Well, you know what's interesting, and I don't know how other people's brains work. I would actually do better with north, south, east, west for that sort of thing. I know a lot of people that would probably be much harder for them. But when you give me a qualitative name like Country Hills, I'm like, that doesn't give me a point of reference. I don't know where that is in relation to anything else. And so I can't do anything with it. I don't know. That's a me thing, but
I'm just saying there's a horror movie somewhere in there about getting lost in a hotel like that.
The elevator.
I would watch it, frankly.
Okay. So horror films, which I had a dream last night.
Ooh.
Which is not about a horror film or about elevators, but it is about the new DSM-6 that came out. This is what I'm dreaming about.
Is this the horror film?
And it was about, they had revised the autism criteria, and they had this little like an adaptive questionnaire that you could ask that would then choose your own adventure, and then it brings you to this question, this question, this question to then decide whether or not you need to move forward. Anyway, those are the things that my brain is thinking about while I'm sleeping. I don't know.
Yeah, the DSM is absolutely a horror film. So
oh my gosh. Right. I mean, there's a connection there. That's why it made me think of it. I was going, yeah.
I mean, Emily, you're just so great. And we could talk to you forever and ever. I'm so jealous you got Ross Green. Thank God I don't have to pay him royalties. Every time I mention him, I feel like I should give him a quarter.
All right. I know.
So we'll move into the wrap up section.
Okay.
We're just going to ask you a question. Jake, I know you're chomping at the bit. Why don't you kick us off?
Definitely. My question for you is, what's your favorite word and why?
Oh, this is like the guy from The Thing with the chairs in front of the audience. What am I? James Lipton. Look, I came up with a name. Yes, right?
Be inside the actor's studio.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. I got there. Okay, what is my favorite word? Can it be a phrase?
Absolutely.
I'm going to do a callback to the conversation we were having before we started recording, but probably, it's like my check-in. It's like I've got to know whether or not somebody is with me because my brain goes so quickly and it becomes a filler word, but there is a purpose to it where, you know what I mean? Can I keep going down this with you? And so I don't know if that's my favorite word. It's my most used word. And off the top of my head, that's what's coming to me. I could think of some others. I've got some great words, but now I'm going to have, Okay, hang on. We can maybe cut all this out. Let me think for a second here. All of the words that I'm coming up with are like little, like the bumper sticker things, right? Like, anyway, all right, just go with what I said. It's fine. I don't have a better option, I don't think, that I can come up with right now.
It's really good.
I'm here for it. Because it's also like, it's like a step above as a filler word, where it's rather than just like people are losing it.
Yeah, there is a purpose there with it because that's my check-in, right? Like, yeah. Okay, hang on. I've got one. Actually, I think my favorite word is accommodation.
Ooh.
Because it means more than what it looks like on the surface. And it doesn't mean what people often think it means, which is the easy way out. But we are constantly making accommodations and accommodating everybody in our life. It's not just neurodivergent people. And it is an act of compassion and humanity to make accommodations for people. And I feel like sometimes that gets lost in the conversation.
Absolutely does.
Maybe pull all that other bullshit out.
You made it even better.
You know?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know?
We'll see if Jake actually does it, because
that's okay. You can do whatever.
It'll be a surprise.
Love it. Okay. Now, Emily, my question for you is, if you could have any superhero on speed dial, who would it be and why?
If I don't really know any superheroes,
then you can create one, or
let me think. Yeah. Okay. Hang on. I can do this. A superhero that I went on speed dial. What is the purpose? Like, what am I calling them for? Like, they're going to solve the problem, whatever it might be.
When we had Scott Barry Kaufman on, he was like, I want Catwoman because Catwoman's hot and I want to be able to call Catwoman. I was like, you know what? Hey, I'm here for that.
Fair enough. I love that. Let me think. I think Batman, because he's got all the toys.
Yes.
He's got all the stuff. He's got the car that turns into the boat that flies. Really, probably my favorite Batman is actually, this is not even the one that I was thinking of, does a Smart List podcast with Bateman and Sean Hayes. And his name is, he did the Lego movie.
Oh, Will Arnett.
Will Arnett. I had Will and I could not think of his last name. That's my favorite Batman. But my favorite character actually from Batman is Chris O'Donnell, who actually played Robin. He did not play Batman, but I did love Chris O'Donnell back in the 90s. He was great. And so
he was edgy because he had an earring. So.
Yeah. He was very cool. I don't remember what other movies he was in. He was in that movie with Minnie Driver.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. Anyway.
Chris O'Donnell has been in a lot. I mean, probably famously School Ties is a classic Chris O'Donnell film. I mean,
Circle of Friends was the one with Minnie Driver. Love that movie.
My brain's doing a whole 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon thing right now.
Yeah, I know.
But you know what? Batman, great answer. We love that.
I don't know. I don't know very many superheroes, so I don't have very great insight into that.
You did fine.
Like, I know Iron Man also has toys, but I don't even know what toys he has because I never watched any of the Iron Man movies. Sorry.
Batman and Iron Man are essentially the same character. They are orphaned billionaires with daddy issues.
Is one DC and one Marvel? Is that the deal?
That's exactly it.
God, I mean, I know enough. Like, I now here's the thing. I have a client. I could tell you his top 5 Batman villains in rank order because I get an update every session. So, I mean, I do know some of the villains actually pretty well, specifically from Batman. But that's about it.
I do a whole talk on, like, I call it crazy/smart, and it's like, what's the difference between giftedness and sociopathy, right? Like, why did so many Batman and Spider-Man villains have advanced degrees? Like, is it that grad school makes you insane, or is there something else going on there? Coming to the next conference near you. I mean, Emily, you're just so fabulous. We're such a treat to get to talk to you. Do you have any words of wisdom for our listeners, or anything to send us out of here with?
I think probably the thing that all of us need to remember, whether that's for our children, our students, our clients, or ourselves, is that change happens slowly. if something has been a struggle or is difficult or you're having a hard time with it, that didn't happen overnight. And so it's not going to get solved overnight. Recognizing that there's just incremental change that has to happen, and that's a slow process, but being compassionate and being able to take it one step at a time is really important. Not feeling like things have to be rushed.
Love that. Yeah. Can't microwave healing, right? It's a process. And, the thing we all, and as we were both joking about how terrible our early podcast episodes were, and look where we are now. The only way to get better is by doing.
That's true. Absolutely.
Well, Emily Kircher-Morris, I am proud to call you a colleague and prouder to call you a friend. So thank you for being here with us. You are delightful and spectacular. And for all of us here at Nerding Out on Neurodiversity, that'll wrap up this episode. Thanks for being thank you for learning with us and learning from us, and as always for trusting us with your time. I got through that without laughing at Jake's dog. I'm very proud of myself. So Jake, do you want to send us out of here before your dog, or unless your dog wants to do it for us?
I think Mac wants to do it for us. He's having a ton of fun barking at things outside. But Emily, thank you a ton for being here. It was great to meet you, talk with you, hear all of your experience and your thoughts just across the board.
Oh, thank you guys so much for having me. It's been fun.
Yes. So have a great day, everybody.
Take care, everyone.
Nerding Out on Neurodiversity is brought to you by Dr. Matt Zakreski and the team at the Neurodiversity Collective. To learn more about the Neurodiversity Collective or to be a guest on the podcast, please visit our website at www.theneurodiversitycollective.com/podcast. Audio and production by Jake Noonan. Show your support by subscribing, leaving a 5-star review, and telling your friends about us. Our Instagram and social media handles are at #NoonPodcast, NOON podcast. Your support is appreciated and keeps us going. All discussions presented on this podcast are strictly for informational purposes, awareness, and understanding. The advice presented is not and should not be considered to be therapeutic in nature. If you have any mental health questions, please contact your provider. All rights reserved.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.